All right. Welcome back to the second video for Wednesday, March 18th. This video, I want to focus on your 5 paragraph essay. As you guys can see, I have up the task sheet right here that I've already posted for you on Monday. Hopefully, you sat down, you started thinking about what you're going to write about. Maybe you actually started your writing. But even if you did, some of the helpful hints and directives I'm going to give you in this video should help you kind of get you thinking, seeing what direction you should be going in, and certainly incorporating a lot of what we've talked about in class up to this point. All right. So the essential question is pretty basic, pretty simple. What is America's role in the world? It's an opinion question. There's no right or wrong answer. We talk about this in class all the time. The only thing you need to do is support your opinion with evidence. All right. Now, there are certain minimum requirements that I did ask of you at the bottom of this task sheet. It does need to be a 5 paragraph essay. It does need to have an introduction. It does need to have a conclusion. And it does need to have 3 body paragraphs. And in those 3 body paragraphs, you should be focusing on 3 of these 5 bulleted points. And I'm going to talk about each of these in a little bit more length in a little bit. All right. So, couple more of the ground rules. You're going to write your essay in MLA format. Basic MLA format calls for double spacing, size 12 font, Times New Roman. You can put a header in the upper left-hand corner of the first page. That header should have your name, the class, U.S. History 2, your teacher's name, Mr. Ritter. You can put block 6B in there, and you can put the due date, which will be March 20th for you guys. All right. If you cite information from anywhere other than your head, you need to cite it. That goes on a works cited page, which is your last page. And you can simply do a Google search for MLA format works cited page. It'll show you exactly what it should look like. There are even websites that will help you generate what that citation should look like. All right. I'm not really too concerned with the overall format. I'm more concerned with the content. Like we've talked about in class before, your English teacher should be more focused on your grammar and your formatting, whereas I'm more focused on your content and making sure you're answering the question the way that it needs to be answered. All right. So with that said, let's get into the actual essential question: what is the role in? What is America's role in the world? So, what I want you to think about: take yourself all the way back to U.S. History 1 and think about the birth of the United States and how we got to where we are now from being the 13 original colonies. Think about our economy. Think about the natural resources we have here. Think about how quickly we spread and grew in size. Think about the different conflicts we engaged in, starting with the French and Indian War, the American Revolution, the war with Mexico, the Civil War, all the engagements we talked about, all the wars we fought in US 1, and then think about what wars we fought in US 2, during US 2, the 2 big ones being World War 1 and World War 2. Now, with World War 1, think about the American mentality going into World War 1. We had 2 groups of Americans. We had isolationists and we had interventionists. The majority of Americans were isolationists going into World War 1 and even after World War 1. So you know what an isolationist is: somebody who wants to stay isolated. We want to stay out of other countries' affairs. We want to stay out of the world's affairs and focus on our own domestic issues. After World War 1, going into World War 2, that mentality changed. Why did it change? What happened to make it change? Not just what happened on American soil, but what happened during the beginning of World War II that might have helped shift America's mentality from being an isolationist mentality to an interventionist mentality. And then after World War II, after what we saw happen in World War II, why did we continue to be interventionists? Why did our view of our standing in the world, our role in the world, change as a result of World War II? Think about what happened during World War II. Think about the atrocities. Think about the power grabs of other countries. Think about the dynamics between dictatorships and democracies, things of that nature. All right. So if you go down to this third bullet point, I'm giving you some things to think about that you should use to help formulate your body paragraph. So let's just go through each one and I'll give you some further explanation as to what they mean. The first bullet point says, as a beacon of freedom. What is America's role in the world as a beacon of freedom? Well, America takes very seriously its freedoms and liberties, a la the U.S. Constitution, your First Amendment right, your Bill of Rights, um, and everything that comes with being a U.S. citizen and having those constitutional protections. Well, how do we feel other people outside of the United States should have their rights protected? And is it America's role to help protect those rights for those people if their government is not doing it for them? That's what I want you to think about and consider. Second bullet point, as a haven for refugees. We've talked about this in class. We talked about it during World War II. We've talked about it in present day. With the war on terror and everything that's going on in the Middle East and elsewhere, should the United States be taking refugees in from other countries, even if they potentially pose a threat to our own safety and security? Is that one of America's role as being a leader in the world, as being a world power? Third bullet point, as the world's policeman. Well, it kind of speaks for itself. If something goes on outside of America, within a country, between two groups of countries like World War I and II, is it America's role to step in and play the policeman in that conflict? Or are we better off just letting them figure it out on their own and focusing on our domestic issues? Again, going back to that isolationist mentality. So, is it our job to step in other countries' affairs or other regions' affairs and help intervene? That's what I want you to explain with that bullet point. The fourth bullet point, as a spreader of democracy. Well, we know what a democracy is. It is America. We are in an election year where we are having a presidential race in 2020. We don't quite yet know who the Democratic candidate's going to be, but we know Trump is going to run for reelection. That is what a democracy is. Should people be allowed to go and vote for who their leader is going to be? Is it America's job to ensure that other countries utilize a democratic type government where they allow their people those freedoms? We know there are many different forms of government. There are many different types of societies out there. Is it America's job to make sure that we spread democracy throughout the rest of the world, whether they want it or not? That's the question to answer there. And then lastly, the fifth bullet point, as an international peacekeeper. This one kind of blends a little bit with the third bullet point as a world policeman. So if you're going to pick bullet point 3 or bullet point 5, you could probably do both of those together, because bullet point 3 is basically saying, should the United States patrol what's going on in the rest of the world? And then bullet point number 5 is saying, if something happens, if a fight breaks out, is it the US's role to step in and intervene and keep that conflict from getting potentially worse? So, are we expected to be a peacekeeper? Are we expected to jump in and break up these fights between a country or between other countries? All right. Those are things I want you to consider. These are all topics we've pretty much covered in class. I just now want you to apply it to post World War II America, and even today in 2020. Is what is America's role in the world in 2020 compared to what it was to after World War II? Has it even changed that much? I'm not really sure it has changed that much. I think World War II changed America pretty permanently in terms of our view of the rest of the world and what our role is in it. But that's just my opinion. I want to hear about yours. All right. Take some time, maybe do some pre-writing, outlining, jot down some ideas. I'm not requiring it. The only thing you need to hand in on Friday is your 5-paragraph essay typed as a Google Doc and turned in right underneath this assignment here. So you can go right on down, put your cursor down, hit enter. So it brings you down to a new page. And this is where you can put your header. I'll just do one for you as a mock. All right, you're going to start with your name. The class is U.S. History 2, Mr. Ritter, Block 6B. You can spell it right. And what else did I say to put in there? The due date, March 20th, 2020. All right, that's basically what your header should look like. Scroll down. Now, I did say this needs to be double spaced. So we're going to drop down. We're going to double space it. Everybody should do Times New Roman. I have Calibri set up because that's my fave. I'm going to find Times New Roman, throw it in there, hit enter, hit tab, and then you begin typing your intro paragraph. All right. Now, I'll finish with this. When you write your intro paragraph, it should go from general to specific and end with your thesis statement. Your thesis statement is basically your opinion, and you can or cannot include what points you're going to talk about. All right. So I always use my New York Giants example. If I'm going to write a 5-paragraph essay about the New York Giants being the best team in NFL history, I don't want to start my intro paragraph by saying the New York Giants are the best team in NFL history. I want to start off introducing my reader to sports in America. Then I want to kind of lead into specifically talking about football, specifically talking about professional football, specifically talking about the NFL, specifically talking about the New York Giants. And then finally, I can finish with my thesis statement, which is going to say the New York Giants are the best team in the NFL, period, or the New York Giants are the best team in the NFL because they have the most amount of Super Bowl championships, the most amount of Hall of Fame players, and the most amount of Hall of Fame coaches. That would be a thesis statement. All right. Once your thesis statement is done, you can start getting into your body paragraphs and getting into the specifics. So for me, my first body paragraph would talk in detail about a couple of the New York Giants Super Bowl championships. My next body paragraph is going to talk about a couple of the Hall of Fame players from the New York Giants. And my third body paragraph is going to talk about the Hall of Fame coaches from the New York Giants. And then my conclusion is your intro paragraph flipped upside down and reworded. So you ended your intro paragraph with your thesis statement. Your conclusion paragraph would start with your thesis statement, but reworded. So you have to reword it so it's not identical to what it looks like in your intro. All right. And then typically what you do from there is you go from specific to general. So you would zoom out. You would talk about the New York Giants being the best team in the NFL and why. And then you would talk about how them being the best team in the NFL has helped build professional football in America. It's helped build professional sports. They've become one of the biggest organizations, and you can kind of zoom out from there and then leave your reader with some strong finishing point that drives home your opinion. All right. That's a general rule of thumb. Again, this is something you should have been learning in your English classes and your history classes since freshman year. Anybody who had me for US1, we absolutely did this in class last year. So use what you've learned, put it together, show me what a well-developed 5-paragraph opinion piece essay looks like. And if you need any help whatsoever, ask. RitterM at MiddletownK12.org. Send me a comment on Classroom. And if we need to, we can set up a time where we can actually Google Hangout with each other. And maybe I can walk you through a couple things and help you guys out. All right. That essay is due 11:59 p.m. Friday night. Do not forget. Please, please, please do not forget. All right. Take care, guys. I will see you soon.